The NBA season is nearing the end, and because of that, we have off-season trade rumors starting to ramp up. So before it's too late, I am giving you my official trade predictions for the 2024 NBA offseason. There is only one team to start this video with, and it is the Atlanta Hawks. DeJounte Murray and Trae Young have been rumored since well before the trade deadline to potentially be on the move. I do not anticipate the Hawks moving Trae Young, given the fact that he produces all-star type of production yearly, and you cannot just get that production from anyone. DeJounte Murray, on the other hand, has not been able to bring out the same production that he did in San Antonio, unless, of course, Trae Young is not on the court. So I expect the Hawks to move him this offseason. I predict that he will be traded to the Pelicans in exchange for Brandon Ingram, as both teams need the other player more. Brandon Ingram will be able to be an elite co-star with Trae as he is better off the ball, while DeJounte Murray is exactly the floor general needed in New Orleans. This trade will also include Clint Capella and more players that I won't get too specific about. Moral of the story, I predict that Brandon Ingram and DeJounte Murray will swap places this offseason. Brandon Ingram isn't the only Pelicans player in rumors. However, a Brandon Ingram trade is the only significant trade the Pelicans make this offseason in my personal opinion. When it comes to trades, the most underwhelming and annoying team in the NBA is the Chicago Bulls. Always in rumors yet never make a trade, and are always in mediocrity. This will not change this offseason. Zach LaVine is surely rumored a lot, but he has no trade value and his contract is a net negative for whoever would trade for him. So Zach LaVine will not be moved because I do not think any team will be dumb enough to trade for him. And I also know the Bulls are too attached to anyone else to trade them, so the Bulls will make 0 trades again. Another team that will not make a trade this year is the Boston Celtics, as they simply just cannot make a trade that benefits them given their assets and player contracts. To this point in the offseason, you cannot discuss a point guard in the NBA without mentioning the Spurs, and I expect them to get the point guard they have been looking for. Darius Garland, DeJounte Murray, Trae Young, and every other star guard in the league are always mentioned in the media. But let us shut that down because the Spurs are smart enough to understand that they cannot accelerate too fast in the Wemby era, as he and the entire roster still have more development to be done. The Spurs need a veteran point guard that can coach them on the court, and who is better than that than my favorite player, Chris Paul? This will happen as the Spurs will trade a small package with Keldon Johnson in it to the Warriors, and this happens as CP3 is on a $30 million deal, and the Warriors really cannot afford that. And the Warriors could use more wings like Keldon Johnson, so making this deal is a no-brainer for both sides. Continuing the Warrior talk, Kevon Looney and Andrew Wiggins are really the only other players I could imagine them trading this offseason, unless all hell breaks loose. I honestly do not see the Warriors moving either of them, but if they did, I would love Andrew Wiggins going to Cleveland in exchange for Jared Allen. There would be more to that deal if it were done, but I don't think it would happen, so I have no other predictions for the Warriors despite them being a team that needs to make some moves. Speaking of Jared Allen, I would predict him to be moved this offseason, in large part because of what we saw from Evan Mobley this postseason, as he finally flashed the offensive upside we expected from him for a while. This only happened because of Jared Allen's absence in the playoffs, and now it is a no-brainer to move Allen, especially after Allen had an impressive season. You also look at the Donovan Mitchell rumors, yet it is more likely Garland is moved. So I looked at the Cavs and said they are trading Jared Allen and Darius Garland this offseason. Realistically, they could get a 3-team deal done. So I am predicting Jared Allen is going to be a massive acquisition for the number 1 seeded Oklahoma City Thunder in their only offseason trade. Allen will replace Josh Giddey, who is headed to Brooklyn, along with Darius Garland, as the Nets find their lead guard for the future, as one of those two is destined to pan out. And the Cavaliers, using Garland and all the draft picks they would acquire from OKC for Allen, bring in Mikal Bridges and Dorian Finney-Smith. This honestly could be the blockbuster of the 2024 NBA offseason, unless Jimmy Butler does get traded, which we'll talk about later. For the Nets, trading Mikal Bridges and Dorian Finney-Smith to the Cavs may be the only trade the Nets make this offseason, but Dennis Schroeder is someone else they should move. I don't know where they'll send him, but I expect him to be on a new team next season. Since we just did 2 blockbuster deals, let's cool down a little bit and start talking about the teams with financial or asset restrictions. First team up is the Clippers. they have their hands tied. But if they're smart, they move Norman Powell to free up $20 million in cap space. My favorite team, the Phoenix Suns, who are supposed to be canceled on this channel for the remainder of the year, have the problem of financial restrictions and no valuable assets. However, I would not mind moving Grayson Allen or Jusuf Nurkic if the opportunity presents itself. Now, I know you might be thinking I'm crazy for saying trade Grayson Allen, but he is coming off a historically good year, but he is a historically bad playoff performer. So trading him while his value is high could be extremely smart for the Suns. Unless the Timberwolves want to trade Cat or Gobert, there's not much they can do on the trade market, but their number one target should be Dennis Schroeder. I will jump for joy if the Bucks trade Brook Lopez, but they won't, and they can't really do anything else unless they trade Bobby Portis, which I don't back. The only player the Rockets will move is Jalen Green, or they will make a move involving pick number 3. But the reality of it is that draft night trades are impossible to predict, and those are the only trades I foresee them making this offseason. The Pistons have nothing valuable outside of Jaden Ivey, and they should consider trading him if they are not going to allow him to develop, as they have been handicapping him. The Indiana Pacers hit a luck of good fortune that allowed them to make a miraculous run to the conference finals, but unless they add some defense, they will not be heading back anytime soon. Benedict Mathurin being hurt the entire playoffs allowed for certain Pacers players to highlight their abilities, allowing Mathurin to be more of an expendable asset. And I feel that if the Pacers are smart and consider the true upside of Benedict Mathurin that other teams see, they should move him for an elite defensive player to help them take a next step forward. Barring the worst collapse in NBA history, the Dallas Mavericks are going to the NBA Finals, so nobody is really expendable. However, Tim Hardaway Jr. has fallen out of the rotation, so maybe there is a trade they can make involving him. Unless a team like the 76ers or any other team with lots of money and draft picks wants Kuzma, the Wizards will not be making a trade. John Collins has no value, so I have no clue what the Jazz think is going to happen with him. Larry Markkinen, however, is likely to get an extension, so I foresee no big deals from Utah. I don't know what the Kings are going to do, if I'm being honest, but everyone outside of Fox, Sabonis, and Murray should be on the trade block. And you could argue Keegan Murray could be on that block as well if they could acquire a star like Jimmy Butler. Speaking of Jimmy Butler, we're almost to the Jimmy Butler discussion. But before that, we also have to talk about the Raptors. And there's not much they can do, but Bruce Brown will be moved to a team who wants to compete and has enough assets to trade for him. Jakob Poeltl is also an interesting name for the Raptors, but when it comes down to it, I believe he will stay put. Unless they want to trade Michael Porter Jr., the Nuggets will not be making a meaningful trade this year. Just like during the trade deadline, the Blazers, Jeremy Grant, and Malcolm Brogdon will all be involved in a lot of rumors because those two names are very popular on the trade market. I would expect both to be traded, although the deals are very unclear to me at this time, as their markets as players are not as big as you would expect, given the health concerns and the contract issues. I expect the New York Knicks to be doing all their damage in free agency as they wait for a mega star to be available soon. So no, Julius Randle will not be traded. Maybe Bojan and Mitchell Robinson though, if anybody, but I don't see it happening. I don't know what the Lakers think they can get done in the trade market with their assets, but it certainly is not going to be up to their fan base standards, as I can confirm that Donovan Mitchell, Trae Young, and any other star player the Lakers think they might get will just not be happening. But I do predict some under-the-radar trade acquisitions from LA. The Magic will acquire Seth Curry from the Hornets as they need shooting, and it's really a no-brainer. The final trade of the video is in fact a Jimmy Butler trade. We see 76ers rumors constantly, and in all likelihood, that is in fact where he would end up if in fact Jimmy Butler is traded, due to the fact the 76ers have a fair amount of draft capital and enough money to take on the Jimmy contract. The real question about Jimmy Butler going to Philly is really, do the 76ers have enough league-ready assets to get a deal done? And the answer is evidently no for the time being, given the fact that the 76ers have less than 5 players on their roster currently. However, I have a different idea that would be a true blockbuster and a shocking one at that. Now, I don't believe Jimmy Butler will be traded, but for the fun of it, let's predict a destination and a mock trade package. Jimmy Butler will be headed to the grind city of Memphis, as the Grizzlies are determined to take back a top spot in the West next year. Memphis will be trading Marcus Smart, Brandon Clark, Luke Kennard, and Gigi Jackson, along with draft capital, including pick number 9 in this year's draft. in exchange for Jimmy Butler. It may be an overpay, but if you're the Grizzlies, when you have been healthy, the one problem you face is the fact you can't get over the hump in the playoffs because you do not have a proven playoff guy outside of Ja Morant. Well, Jimmy Butler fits in perfectly with what you are doing in Memphis, and if he is truly on the market, you go all in on a Jimmy Butler deal. This mock trade is flawed, so it's not a prediction, rather a potential blueprint for the Grizzlies to lay the groundwork for a Jimmy Butler deal. I would love to see Memphis acquire Jimmy Butler just because the grind city, the way that Memphis plays, the way they carry themselves, they need a Jimmy Butler there. I think he'd be a perfect fit there. And I do want to see Memphis back on the top of the West like we have seen the past 2 years until this year. But yeah, that's all I got for y'all. Let me know what trade predictions y'all got. I tried not to BS a lot of it, but the Jimmy Butler trade is definitely questionable. But you know what? It's for fun. I don't expect him to be traded, but he is the biggest name on the trade market. So I couldn't really make this video without saying anything about him. Y'all have a good one. Stay safe. Bye. Also, check out my free agency predictions and the Bleacher Report article that I reacted to. That is very questionable.